To be young, gifted, and black, and free, and beautiful, I'm reminded who made it that way, who grieved their youth under trees of strange fruit, and hid their gifts under floorboards. I wave hello to my ancestors in my dreams, and listen to their voices in the drums. Though they left the living, their heartbeat is carried through it. Beat, 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 with every step. Beat, beat, beat. I feel my heart beat, beat. And Juneteenth becomes a melody of black bodies dancing on the graves of chains. And yes, they clang and bang together from under. But with our rhythm, our golden, beautiful cries of joy, the sound is drowned out. Freedom is the drums. Freedom is the step. Freedom is the rhythm. And freedom is the heartbeat. Happy Juneteenth.
My calculator is broke. Can y'all help me play with some numbers real quick? 80% of Americans agree that there should be access to abortion, but there are 21 states with abortion bans in place. I don't really think that adds up. According to the CDC, 80% of pregnancy-related deaths are preventable. But black women are still 3 times as likely than white women to die from pregnancy-related causes. The 10 states with the highest population of black people are the states with the strictest abortion bans. They also have some of the largest disparities when it comes to maternal outcomes. 1 in 5 women report some form of mistreatment while receiving maternal care. The number drops to 1 in 3 for non-white women. Health insurance and access to family planning are statistically less likely for Black and Hispanic women. In Georgia, where I live, there are 80 counties with no access to an OBGYN, and rural areas in general report numbers as low as 6.4% for their access to an obstetrician. So if we do the math, we come to 2 conclusions. 1, the interests of anti-abortion lawmakers do not represent the majority of Americans, and their priorities should be centered around improving the reproductive health care system, especially for the most vulnerable populations.
Happy Juneteenth. Here's who's wearing what to the cookout. Miss Dorothy Dandridge. The one who inspired Marilyn Monroe. Clock it. She's showing up in Tyler Core. Like, the kind of aesthetic where you ain't never seen anything like that before. It's giving body yaddy. And, like, it is specifically hers. She's showing up to the function, ready to dance, too. By the way, can you imagine Dorothy Dandridge doing the dance to Jump or Water? Yeah, we have Nina Simone. Like, be so for real. I literally gave that one away to you. It's the earthy black girl aesthetic, obviously. She would not be caught in anything else. But there's Ava. Next up, we have Madam C.J. Walker, the black millionaire. If you thought you were gonna be best dressed at the cookout, you're just wrong. She's coming in the Jackie Aina core. Extra is basic in this instance. If she wants to be comfortable, she's being comfortable plus extra more. Okay? In this exact outfit, actually. We've got Baird Rusin, who helped with the March on Washington. He was Martin Luther King's right-hand man, and he was an openly gay man. He's eating everyone up. He's showing up, and the minute he gets there, all of the men are going to look at their outfits and be like, well, damn, I tried. You know what I mean? And once the karaoke mic comes on, Anita Baker on the mic. Next, we've got Maya Angelou. My girl. I love Maya Angelou. She's taking a page from Tabitha Brown's book, Accessories, Color, Everything. If you've read her book, she has this thing about get-ups, like describing her outfits as get-ups. This is what she's wearing. Last is Booker T. Washington. And let me tell you why. The minute you offer him a slice of watermelon, he's gonna look at you like you just offered to put him back in slavery. He's only staying for 30 minutes, and then he's leaving to go to the golf country club.
You ever just want to walk up to a Democrat, put your arm right around his shoulders, and just be like, so who do you think the lesser evil is between Hamas and Israel? Like, no, I'm just saying, like, I'm in the sense that, every 4 years they're going to coronate some corporate puppet that, love him or hate him, you got to vote for him because he's a lesser evil, right? So, like, I'm just wondering if we're keeping that same energy across the board or if we're just like, a la carte pick and choosing. And you can't be mad at me for saying that because if you're mad at me, then you're actually mad about what you believe, right? So walk with me. You're pro-Israel, right? Or rather, you're okay with innocent people being slaughtered so long as the big orange guy with tiny hands doesn't take the throne tone from your Democratic candidate, who is also super hella chill with genocide. And more than what is expected for the standard of a Democratic candidate, by the way, which is absolutely insane to hear come out of my mouth. But, and you're okay with that because he's your lesser evil vote, right? I don't really know how you quantified that, but we don't need to get into all that math. And, I'm a socialist. So, like, the Democratic Party doesn't really care about courting the socialist vote. They don't really need us to win elections. And that becomes more true every single day that they continue to court the right-wing element in this country. So, it's kind of like they listen to you guys. Or rather, are you guys listening to them? Like, any way that you slice that, it's not a good look. So, like, if we went body for body, who was the lesser evil? Who was the lesser evil?
Get ready with me while I tell you a little more about myself. My full name is Shaina Mapaluk Nubalinga. Mapaluk is my Inuk name, and I'm 25 years old, turning 26 this month. I have 2 cats. One's named Niku and one Kuni. I absolutely love cats. I feel like we have the same personality. My mom is Inuk and my father is French. I didn't grow up with him, so I always tell people that I'm Inuk because that's the only household that I grew up in. I have 4 younger sisters, so I grew up mostly around women. I was born in Povonituk, which is a really small community in northern Quebec, but we moved to Montreal a few years after I was born. In Montreal, we speak English and French, so I know 3 languages. Inuktitut was my first language, but I'm slowly losing it. I don't really have that opportunity to practice my culture as much as if I lived up north. That's pretty much how I started TikTok, showing my journey, reclaiming my culture while living in a big city. I feel that so many people can relate to my story, and I think it's never too late to learn your culture. Another random fact about me is I love to play badminton. It's my favorite sport. I've been playing it since I was in high school, and now I play twice a week. I'm not a professional, but I just really love playing badminton. One of my biggest obsessions is boba. I genuinely buy boba every single day. I graduated college in business, but right now I'm full-time content creator. I've always loved making videos since I was a little girl. I'm so happy I could do this full-time.
6 examples of actions you might be taking due to anti-Black fear. 1. Avoidance. Crossing the street, avoiding eye contact, or not sitting next to a Black person due to your discomfort. I've experienced this, by the way. 2. Clutching belongings. Holding onto your bag or purse more tightly when Black people are near, even out in public, surrounded by people because you're afraid of getting robbed. I've experienced this one too. 3. Neighborhood opinions, defining certain neighborhoods or schools as good or safe versus bad or dangerous, usually based on how many Black people live in the area or not. By the way, search up racial blockbusting to learn how realtors have used this fear to manipulate white homeowners for profit. 4. Police weaponization, calling police on Black people for non-crimes like walking through a neighborhood or barbecuing at a public park. 5. Self-deputizing, taking it upon oneself to overly watch Black people or even interrogate Black people in public spaces under the assumption that they don't belong there or plan to commit a crime. And 6. Negative assumptions, assuming Black people are less educated, less trustworthy, less capable, or more aggressive. This happens even in quote-unquote anti-racist spaces. Fear is a powerful driver of behavior that will 100% betray your stated values. When you fear Black people, you can't effectively advocate for equality because of this hidden programming in your brain that will activate if you get into the wrong situation. I want to help y'all heal from this hidden fear programming. Comment workshop and I'll DM you info to sign up for my live online class, Developing Your Anti-Racist Heart, Doing the Inner Work, happening on Saturday, June 29th. And for the first time ever, I'm offering a 50% early bird discount if you buy your ticket before this Saturday, June 22nd. Again, comment workshop and I'll send you the info. You'll definitely want to get in on this.
Allow me to tell you about one of the most uncomfortable experiences of my life. So in high school, I was part of my student government. And in order to rightfully fulfill my duties, I was to attend a monthly city council meeting. I was really only there to represent my school. Now, most of these meetings were pretty uneventful for me, except for one fateful month. Now, in this particular meeting, they were having somebody talk about disabilities in the community. Now, the lady that was speaking made it very clear that she was not disabled, but she knows many people with disabilities, and she is very qualified for this job. Now, she begins her presentation, starts talking about whatever she was going to talk about, but stops shortly after. She goes, "Before I continue, I notice that there's somebody here who might know a little bit more about this than I do." And I remember hearing this and going, Now, it's important to note, and I'm sorry to admit this, but up until this moment, I was paying close to zero attention. I don't know what to tell you. I was 15, all of my focus was down on my phone, and I was in the middle of a life-changing Flappy Bird run. But my bird runs into a pipe, I look up, and this lady is staring right at me, and I think to myself, oh my god. She said, "Hi, what's your name?" And I said, Tyler? She then asks, "Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to have a disability?" And again, I was like 15, so I wasn't really grasping the vibe of it all. So I just said, "Yeah, it's not so bad." I said it's not so bad. I don't know what answer she was expecting, but "it's not so bad" was clearly not it because she moved on. She said, "Oh, all right. Well, before I continue my presentation, do you prefer to be called a person with disabilities or a disabled person?" And I said, "I don't mind." And again, clearly not the answer she was anticipating. But to be fair, I didn't mind. I don't mind what you call me. Some people do. At the time, I just wasn't one of them. At this point, I think she was getting a little uncomfortable, and everybody in the room was kind of chuckling just a little bit. And she said, "Oh, okay, well, thank you for your help." And I thought to myself, I had literally provided you with no new information. But to be fair, she put me on the spot. Randomly, for no reason. Anyway, I'll never forget this.
Everyone say hi to Kano. He's purring right now. Every time I post videos of him, people always have a lot of questions. Max and I adopted Kano 4 years ago, and he's about 10 years old right now. He might look a little strange for a Sphinx cat, and that's because he's not a Sphinx. Usually when you think of Sphinx cats, you're probably thinking of a traditional Sphinx, but he is a Donskoy Sphinx. Kano has gone through 4 different families. We are the 4th. He's originally from Russia. He's also just sitting on my lap and chilling right now. Hi, buddy. He was originally adopted by a family, but they ended up having a baby, which he did not like. So he was then adopted / fostered by somebody who was planning on rehoming him pretty quickly. She ended up having him for 2 years because he's such a great kitty. And she finally decided to rehome him after 2 years because she moved onto a boat. So Kano lived on a boat for over a year. And the reason she decided to adopt him is because one day he almost got eaten by sea lions. If you're wondering how he feels like a combination of baby skin and mature skin. And if you're wondering if he needs baths, yes, he needs baths every week or so. He's been getting baths his entire life, but he still hates them for whatever reason. But he gets gross and nasty if we don't give him a bath. In terms of care, I wouldn't say he's that much more care intensive than a cat with hair. There is specific care that goes into having a hairless cat, but I would say we spend about that much time on our cat with hair cleaning up after her fur. And we get the added benefit of using him as an Apple Pencil. But I think that about covers everything. If you have any other questions about Kano, let me know.
Africans and Africa have always existed, so the idea of removing us or blackness to make something historically accurate is simply white supremacy. So here are a list of historical Africans outside of Africa. Queen of Sheba was a biblical figure who was a close friend of King Solomon. This picture of her is from the 3rd century, so any other depiction is whitewashed bunk. In the 2nd century BC, there's Hannibal Barca, who was so gung-ho on kicking Roman butt, he brought war elephants over the Alps. Also, another fun fact, Denzel's gonna play him in a movie. In the 1st century, we have one of the most famous virgins outside of Jesus' mom, Saint Iphigenia of Ethiopia, a royal princess who became one of the first African women to lead a Christian community. She spread Christianity in Ethiopia and beyond. In the 2nd century, Lucius Quietus, a Roman general who played a significant role during the Jewish revolt. He later became the governor of Judea, but he was so popular that the emperor of Rome had him executed for fear of losing his position. In the 3rd century, we have Saint Maurice, an Egyptian military leader who headed the legendary Theban Legion. He's the patron saint of military infantry and alpine hunters. Born in the 3rd century in what is now called Libya, Septimus Severus was one of the most prominent African-born Roman emperors. Yeah, African guys think about the Roman Empire a lot too. Michael Jackson of the 7th century was Zarab, an African musician, singer, and polymath who significantly influenced the culture of Europe. He also showed them this really cool instrument called the lute. In the 7th century, we have Bilal ibn Rabah. He was born in Mecca, but of Abyssinian origin. He was a close friend of the Prophet Muhammad and was the first Muezzin, meaning caller to prayer in Islam. In the 12th century, we have Prester John, a legendary Christian patriarch who wrote to the Byzantine emperor that he ruled the greatest nation on earth. It is said that he was talking about Ethiopia. Sayyid of Mogadishu was Africa's first ambassador to China. He was also the first African scholar to translate Mandarin in the 15th century. And when he visited China, he gifted them a giraffe. I was gonna mention Yasuke, but I think the new Assassin's Creed game will do a better job than me. Juan Latino was a scholar and poet in Spain during the Renaissance. He was also a professor of Latin at the University of Granada. Alessandro de' Medici became the Duke of Florence in the early 16th century. He's recognized as one of the first black heads of state in the Western world. So yeah, sorry, Obama. In the 16th century, there's John Blanc, a black trumpeter in the court of King Henry VII and VIII. He's one of the few African individuals in England during this period whose name and presence are documented. Saint Benedict the Moor was a Franciscan friar born in the 16th century in Sicily. He's the patron saint of African Americans and Palermo, which is unfortunate because he was easily the worst character in Money Heist. Stefan Nico is one of the first Africans in the 16th century to explore what is now the United States. In the 17th century, there's Louise Marie Theresa, also known as the Black Nun of Moray. She was a French nun, with rumors surrounding her that she may be the illegitimate daughter of Queen Maria Theresa of Spain. But don't let the name fool you, she was actually the Queen of France. Zumbi dos Palmeiras is the Brazilian Harriet Tubman who led multitudes of successful slave revolts in the 17th century. Gaspar Yongo was an African slave in Mexico who led one of the first successful revolts against Spanish colonial rule. He founded one of the first free African settlements in the Americas. John Caesar, also known as Black Caesar, was born in Madagascar in the 18th century, but convicted in Britain for stealing 240 shillings, about $958 today. He was subsequently sent to Australia, where he escaped into Australian bush, becoming the first bushranger. Jean-Baptiste de Sebal, who founded Chicago in the 18th century. Memnon was a legendary Ethiopian king and warrior who fought in the Trojan War. He's the son of the goddess of the dawn. Yeah, we be in your midst too.